for the year ended March 31st, 2022. And finally, the annual reports and audited financial statements of the Barbados Aircraft and Aviation Services Company Limited for the year ended March 31st, 2022.
Public business resume, order number 3.
Order number 3 resumed. Senator Walters.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning to my fellow senators. Mr. President, the estimates, debate, and the budgetary proposals of any government is very important, not only for the pathway of the country, but for ordinary Barbadians. Sir, when Bajans tune into the presentation in the other house, and when they experience the debate in here about what has been proposed for them over the next 12 months, they are interested because they want to know how it will impact their lives, Mr. President. They want to know what the government's immediate plans are, and so that they can make better decisions for themselves and their families. It's important, sir, to note that the pressing issues, what we call the bread and butter issues of the day, are very important to the regular taxpayers, the ordinary man, as we often refer to them. Sir, they want to know what will happen to the education system, not only the reform, but to the actual plants and the facilities that the children and the teachers have to go to school with every day, sir. They want to know about the state of the roads. We heard yesterday about the congestion of the roads. They want to know about opportunities for housing. They want to know about the opportunities for new jobs. So these are critical things, sir. They want to understand where the country is going to take its healthcare, what they can expect from the healthcare system in terms of polyclinics, the Queen Elizabeth Hospital, sir. But, sir, they want to know how the budgetary measures will impact on their lives and the cost of living, sir, what they have to bear every day, the things that they have to do. And very often, when we are presenting estimates and budgets and reports from the Central Bank on the economic performance of the country, we tend to, or the officers tend to speak about, economic terms. They talk about the gross domestic product. They speak about the deficit or surplus. They speak about the number of international reserves. They speak about the debt to GDP, the size of the economy, etc. And while all that is important, sir, and I will not knock it in any way, because as a business person myself, I know the importance of metrics and numbers in guiding decision-making. I know very well, sir, that we are guided by numbers, metrics, standards that we have to meet, etc. So I don't knock it. But what I would say is that there's another side of the equation that is very important, and which I want to concentrate my presentation on today. And that is the role of people in our economy. Because as well, as good as I know the metrics, sir, in terms of the targets, how much I want to grow, how much I want to save, I also know that I cannot do it without people. I also know, sir, that if somebody doesn't show up to work, what implications that may have to the office or to the business. I know the implications that may mean to the customer service that is meted out on that particular day, sir. And I also know, sir, that if customers do not show up, sir, on a particular day as expected, I would also have a concern. We know, we all experience what a bank holiday does to the economy. We all know what a holiday does to the government revenue. So I say all that, sir, to bring into focus the role of people and the role that they play in the economy as it relates to coming to work, as it relates to earning money, and as it relates to spending money in the economy. How does a government make its revenue, sir? A government makes its revenue because there is business activity in the country. They're able to collect VAT, they're able to collect duties and taxes and levies from these businesses. They make money when these businesses then themselves expand. They may expand their business at the location. They may go to 2 or 3 locations, create franchises, etc. They may grow. And that is how governments grow their revenue, by business growing and by business expanding and new business investment. But how do these businesses earn their revenue, sir? They earn their revenue by consumer spending, by persons of all classes, all walks of life, patronizing the businesses, whether it's supermarket, whether it's utilities, whether it is clothing, school supplies. Businesses operate on the basis of a person coming in and making a purchase. They operate from a basis of a person coming back next week and the week after to make a purchase. It operates on people coming in to provide them with a revenue source so that they can pay the bills and pass on either profits and taxes to the government, and also things like VAT and duties that I alluded to earlier. But a business survives because there is spending power. People have money to spend. People have money that there is discretionary income, and there is movement of capital and dollars within the economy. And it brings me then, sir, to what in this estimates, what in this discussion over the last couple of weeks is on the table for the average man or middle-class person, that they would have some discretionary income in their pocket. We continue to hear, sir, discussions about the cost of living, which is one of the biggest things that persons are complaining about now. And I don't think that they're complaining arbitrarily, sir, because at the end of the day, if you look at the numbers, sir, inflation has risen about 20% over the last 6 years. It's a reality. And we know, sir, that it is causing prices to go up and up and up at a faster rate than it normally would. And just to put some context, sir, in the previous 5 years, on average, you would expect inflation to be in the region of maybe 5 to 9%. So that just puts it in context of what is happening currently today in the macro environment that is then trickling down to affect persons and their spending power. So when persons are concerned about cost of living, it is a genuine concern. It is that their dollar is worth less almost every month, every 2 months, every 3 months, as prices continue to escalate. But what is in it for this government? What is in it for the government today that they have put to the people of Barbados that can give them some spending power? What has the government put on the table, sir, that they can control the rising cost to the consumers, to our households, to our entry-level workers, to our low-income earners, to our middle-income earners? And we've heard different variations in this discussion by fellow senators. Let me talk about cost of living, sir. The cost of living, as it relates to the efforts made by the government with the price compact with the private sector, I must commend the government for making an effort. What we need to do as a government, what the government needs to do, is to work out if these measures were effective. If they were effective, sir. We all know from experience that prices do not generally come down. We all know it's very hard for businesses to lower prices. We experience the continued increase in prices regardless sometimes of what initiatives are put in place. The price compact, sir, from the perspective of consumers, if you monitor what they're saying, it did not give them the effect that they anticipated. Prices continue to rise. Prices continue to rise. What has the government put in place in this coming year to slow these prices down? Is it good enough to just say that we have something on the table and we're going to discuss it? The last compact, sir, ended in September. So we are 6 months on. When we deal with cost of living and prices especially, it has to be a proactive state of mind that the government is operating in, not a reactive state. Because once the prices start to go up, they're not going to come back down. So we have to get the prices before they go up. So to tell us, sir, that there are going to be ongoing discussions about what the private sector can do or what the government can work with the private sector on is not good enough. It tells me that it was not thought out and that there's no clear indication to the consumers, the working people in this country who are feeling the pinch the most, to give them any comfort when April 1st comes. The governor of the central bank, the former governor of the central bank, sir, is on record, and he stated that the government is benefiting from what he calls the inflation dividend. So while the government revenues are increasing because prices are increasing, the duties and taxes are levied on those, then the VAT on those, then the markups on those, the cost to the consumer, our dollar, is decreasing, it is diminishing, and it needs some intervention. One of my concerns, sir, is that the government, in its efforts, tend very often to try to fix a permanent solution with a temporary measure. Inflation is something we have to live with. The rate of inflation is something that governments control. So it cannot be done with a 3-month measure and a 6-month measure. It has to be tackled forcefully, fairly, and comprehensively in a sustainable way. So, sir, I'm urging the government to do something about this. It is not too late. It is not good enough to say something is on the table 6 months after, when inflation is ongoing every day. The government also is on record as a manifesto promise that they would let the VAT rate in 2018. Now, if in 2018 there was a promise by this government to reduce value-added tax to the consumers, when inflation, cumulative inflation was around less than 10%, we're in an environment where it is now doubled, sir. Why haven't the government then made steps to reduce the VAT? There has to be some consideration given the current economic environment that we are in. So I urge the government to stick to their promise. They like to say promise made, promise kept. This is a promise made, promise not kept. There is room to give consumers an ease when it comes to prices on the shelves. But, sir, it has to be done, sir, with a certain level of oversight. We cannot allow the private sector, I'm not saying that they do it, but we cannot allow the private sector, sir, to get away with not passing on what the government's initiatives are to the consumer. So there has to be a strengthening of the Commerce Division to ensure that what is supposed to be passed on is supposed to be passed on, especially in the case of a significant tax reduction. Sir, electricity costs. Now, this is an interesting one, sir, because this was one of the measures in where the Minister of Finance, and it was said in here, spent 4 minutes, sir, 4 minutes on addressing cost of living. 4 minutes out of 4 hours and 22 minutes to address a burning issue like cost of living. And one of the things that identified was the reduction of value-added tax on the first 250 kilowatts of electricity used in households. That would, effective April 1st, sir, that will move from 17.5% to 10%. A reduction, they say, sir, of 7.5%. So let me remind Barbadians and this chamber that currently, and for the last 2 years, the government has allowed households using less than 250 kilowatts of usage per month to pay a rate of 7.5% VAT. If you check your bill, sir, you are paying today 7.5% VAT. This adjustment, sir, will mean that it is an increase in cost to the consumer come April 1st. It is not a cost of living savings for us that have to pay our bills, which is everybody, every household. Money cut there, sir. Couldn't you at least extended the courtesy of the 7.5%? There's nothing else on the table. 4 minutes. And the only initiative was electricity savings and social compact discussion. You mean you couldn't sustain 2.5% of the value added tax, the 7.5%, sir, for the households? Sir, it is not good enough, sir. This represents an increase come April 1st that persons now will have to continue to look for an increase. Sir, they also put us on notice that natural gas will increase in coming months. They did not say when. They did not say to the level that it will be increased. So again, sir, in a cost of living crisis, households in these budgetary statements are being asked to pay more in electricity on April 1st. They're being asked to pay more in natural gas. And as it relates to electricity, sir, I must say that they are very concerned with what is happening with the whole energy conversation and the likelihood that their bills will also increase again this year, depending on certain approvals. And these are persons, sir, that are just going about their business, just going home, going to sleep early, turn off your TV at 9 o'clock, turn off your kitchen light at 7. They're trying to conserve electricity. And it is not right that we are stacking these costs to them when they're just trying to save ends meet. But, sir, the natural gas situation is one that will also permeate throughout the economy because businesses use a lot of natural gas as their main source, and you can anticipate that they might pass on, if not all, a portion of that cost. So some things will go up, food may go up, productions of local items may go up. So sir, this is something that we have to watch very carefully. But again, sir, it represents an increase to the consumers of this country, not a cost of living savings. This is what the government has put on the table for the ordinary man and woman in Barbados today. Sir, I refer now to the prices at the pump. And again, I commend the government for trying to put initiatives in place that would have curbed the interest or the increase in gasoline costs by capping the VAT and the diesel at a specific rate. It must be commended. I can't be a fraud here today, sir. It must be commended. But what I must say, I'm never a fraud. I'm always honest. But what I must say, sir, is that since September 2023, consumers are paying $4.22 per liter at the pump of gasoline and $3.47 per liter for diesel since September of 2023. It has not changed, sir. It has not gone down or has not gone up. I mean, we're like to say it come down, but it has not fluctuated. We have grown accustomed, sir, to monthly adjustments in our light bill, in our petrol, at the beginning of every month, and it is based on a mechanism in the Department of Commerce. But we have not seen an adjustment since September, and we are paying the second highest price at the pump over the last 15 months. That is second to May of last year, which was at $4.24 per liter of gasoline. We are $4.22 for 6 months straight. Sir, the government needs to clarify this. They need to come and explain to us why there has not been an adjustment. Because if you check, sir, on the international market, the prices of oil are trending down. They are fluctuating. In September, it was 96, around $93.65 per US dollars per barrel. In December of last year, it went to $74 US per barrel. In January, it went up to $77 US per barrel. This month alone, it went to 85 US per barrel. It has been going down. It went down, it's not coming back up. But the point is, we are accustomed to getting savings. And if we are saying that we import inflation, and we want to be fair with this metric in terms of passing price costs onto the consumer as relates to petroleum products, when the prices are reduced internationally, when the trends are down, we are accustomed to getting savings. The next thing, sir, is that, again, temporary solutions for permanent problems. It is my understanding that there was a VAT cap, as I explained, on the gasoline and diesel. It expired on September 30th. I believe it was extended to March 31st. So again, sir, March 31st, we haven't heard anything about if we will then have to pay the full value-added tax on the current price that is being charged at the pump, or if consumers will continue to be cushioned in an environment where prices are skyrocketing and continue to rise. So this too, sir, has the propensity, sir, to add additional cost onto the consumers of Barbados. So you have light bills going up, you have natural gas going up, and we have heard nothing about the gas prices. You know, we have maintained a high price for the last 6 months. The VAT cap will end by the end of this month, and there's no indication of where the government is taking the country with these things. Sir, I beg the government to address it so that consumers are happy and comfortable, that they will be cushioned and that they will get some ease. Sir, as I said, if you look at the budget in a snapshot, and I refer to a summary by Deloitte, and under people, item 1, standard of living is a subheading. Standard of living, sir. A very important component of what persons have to endure. Because if the standard of the living of persons diminish, the quality of lives diminish, it affects them not only in their households, it affects the government's financing, the ability for the government to plan, but it also demoralizes these persons, sir, because they have to depend on the state. They have to do 2 jobs, and I will get to that. They have to beg. They have to ask for handouts. It is not good, sir. Standard of living is important, but what drives the standard of living, sir? The cost of living. So it must not be taken lightly. We listened, 4 minutes to address the standard of the cost of living. It is not adequate. It is not adequate, sir. Sir, it is always a sensitive issue when we look at growth. And as I said earlier, sir, we grow when people are spending in the economy. We grow when there's investment, new investment, and expansion of investment.
Mr. President, I raise on a point of order. Truthfully, sir, the honourable member, senator, is not making a bad speech, but just really want to point out that the honourable member is misleading the House. I heard it yesterday and I let it pass, but I'm not going to do so today, when he suggests that only 4 minutes in the budget were spent on inflationary measures. The reality is that the whole budget, the whole thread weaving itself through the tapestry of the budget was to address inflation, quality of life, high prices, and related issues. So that if the sentence itself or the paragraph which included those words came to 4 minutes, that does not detract from the fact that that was the gravamen and thrust of the budget. I know that this may be hard for the DLP to appreciate because they did so much to push up inflation and to deprive people of a high quality of life in this country. But really, I wouldn't, that is the kind of headline and soundbite that undiscerning members of the press are likely to repeat, print, and you will see all over social media, but it is entirely inaccurate.
Thank you, Senator Thompson. Please continue.
Mr. President, I said that 4 minutes was spent on dealing with issues related to cost of living. I said that, sir, and if you...
Mr. President, on a point of order,
Only rise.
I rise on a point
What's the
of
point
order.
of order?
Because my point of order, in my previous point of order, I said inflation and related issues. And inflation and related issues covers cost of living. And inflation and cost of living are issues that are inextricably linked. If the honourable senator wishes to pull back from his initial statement, I have no difficulty with that. But do so with accuracy and press on with the rest of your speech, which wasn't bad. But if you give me cause to interrupt you, I will rise.
Mr. President, I have no intention today to make this about the LP in 1991 or 2013. This is about the people of Barbados and the reality, sir, that they have to face these increasing cost of living, and a lot of effort, sir, was not spent. These are facts. The effort was not spent to take care of these people. And it's not about vulnerable, it goes through the whole society, sir. And don't talk about inflationary, because I said to you, sir, and it did not label the years, between 2013 and 2017, inflation in this country, per the central bank, was less than 9%. Today, between 2018 and now, it is 20% comfortable. Those are the facts, but I will not be drawn into this discussion because I have important things to talk about currently that's happening this toss. As the operator said this time around, the last 6 years when they were handled the economy to manage. And you cannot, I will not allow them in my speech to go back in years when people have pressing issues. They have demanded now. Let them, they have nothing, all they want to do, sir, is get them to talk about a lot. They want to put me in that place so they can have fun. Address the issues of the people today. Sir, I am concerned, sir, that amongst what I have explained in terms of the budgetary measures for the next 12 months, have not addressed to slow down or to actually stop cost of living. It actually increases cost of living April 1st. Okay? I have said that. The taxation, sir, the policies of this government is concerning to me and to Barbadians. Right? Because when you want to grow an economy, as I said, you grow by consumer spending, and you grow by new investment, you grow by new business, etc. We all know this. The government, in my opinion, has not been able to have that activity in consumer spending. Because, sir, they have really, if you look at what they've done, they have actually quite chosen to tax the citizens of Barbados to get the growth. They have chosen to tax the citizens, and they will stand and they will raise. But what I'm saying to you,
President,
sir,
a point of order.
What's the point of order?
The Honourable Senator is misleading the House. This administration, certainly in the last two budgets, have not introduced any new taxes. We have not, unlike the administration that the Honourable Senator represents, we have not introduced any new taxes despite having to deal with the fiscal challenges that we inherited as a result of the party that the Honourable Member represents. Our cleanup activities, Mr. President, have been premised on growth and not on taxation, Mr. President, and I would wish to have that corrected for the record.
Please pass on.
sir, there needs to be no correction. They did not say that there were new taxes last budget or this budget. I said since coming to office. And sir, in
On a
2018...
point of order, Mr. President, sir.
What's the point of order?
My point of order, sir, is that the honourable member is misleading the House. Tax as a percentage of GDP was at its highest between 2016 and 2017. The last 2 years of the Labour Party's term in office, tax as a percentage of GDP reached its highest ever in this country. It continued into early 2018 as they clung desperately to power, refusing to call an election until the very last minute. Since then, and since this government came to office, the tax level has been dropping consistently, and it is now down to below 23%. Tax as a percentage of GDP has not been at that level since the early 1990s, since the Owen Arthur administration. That is the fact. The honourable member can mislead himself if he wishes, but cannot and will not be allowed to mislead this chamber and the wider public.
Thank you, Senator Thompson. Senator Walters.
Mr. President, the tax burden on the citizens is of concern to me. All right? And this Honourable Senator Thompson, she made the point that taxation continued. Senator Morris.
Honourable Senators, please let me hear Senator Walters. President Senator Walters.
I'm not fighting with them, you know. The facts are here. And she did agree, the Honourable Senator did agree, that taxation continued in 2018. It did. Because the government, sir, implemented a fuel tax. Sir, the government implemented fuel tax that raised about $80 million a year, which is about 50, and I'm being fair here, you know, which is about $15 million more than we collected with road tax. Sir, the government implemented a health levy, which collects, and it was corrected in this chamber, over $70 million a year from our workers, sir. In 2018, after May, sir. Sir, the government implemented a garbage and sewage tax that we understand, we do not know for sure, sir. We understood that it collects about $65 million a year. Sir, just these 3 taxes alone. Just these 3 taxes alone. I haven't finished yet, but just these 3 taxes alone, sir, over the inception of the life of the Barbados Labour Party, would have raised almost $900 million from taxpayers. The tax burden is real. Don't mind the percentages that they talk about. The tax burden is real. It is real, sir. And that does not include, sir, that does not include the increase in bus fares. That does not include, sir, the VAT on online transactions that Barbados get accustomed to buying online, not because they don't want to buy local, but you get a little deal once in a while. You get some more variety. You have a family member coming in, sir, and you want to put some things in the suitcase. You got to pay for them too. Furthermore, you pay for everything now. You pay for, and with the advent of COVID, you have all of the online tools and everything being taxed. This is since 2018, sir. Since 2018. Sir, it does not include, sir, the 2.5% product development levy on direct tourism services, sir. And you know, Barbadians go to restaurants and bars that are tourism oriented. They visit these places. We have leisure. We spend time out with family. So we are impacted too. So instead of paying 17.5%, we pay 20%. So sir, this is since 2018. I didn't want to date it, but I must date it now. Because the focus here, sir, is how much can the people bear? $800 million plus all of these. And, you know, if they were really looking at the interest of the people, they would look to see how they can give a little ease here and there. Even on the IMF program. Because, you know what, sir, in 2020, the IMF said to, what's the word they use now? I can't remember the word, it's not coming to me, but to fade away the 2% foreign exchange fee. Phase it out was the term. IMF said to phase it out. And this is what the IMF said. I have the document here. IMF said to phase it out. And again, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter which government implemented it. It was suggested that it phased out. It collected $94 million last year. 94, that's only last year, sir. And the report says the 2% foreign exchange.
From what are you quoting?
Oh, sorry, I'm quoting on a fourth review under the extended arrangement, request for augmentation of access and modification of performance criteria, press release, staff report, and statement by the Executive Director for Barbados.
Well, and what's the date?
And the date is December 2020.
Thank you.
And it says the 2% foreign exchange fee introduced in 2017 remains in place. This was assessed by the IMF as a capital flow management measure and should be phased out. Sir, I'm asking the government to consider phasing it out. Consumers can only bear so much. Consider phasing it out. Consider phasing it out. Consider continuing the VAT rate, holding the VAT rate at 7.5% and not increasing it to 10%. Consider reviewing the fact that the price at the pump has remained constant at the second highest price in 15 months and has not been adjusted down, although the price of petroleum products on the international market has been reducing. Sir, consider those things. Consider those things, sir. So there's room. This will not cost the government $1 billion, but this will mean a lot to householders and taxpayers of this country. Sir, as I say to you, Mr. President, we see the effort. I spoke about consumer spending. I spoke about investment and new business. We see the effort being made for the new business and the investment. It cannot be measured. They cannot say how much revenue they will earn or not earn. They cannot say if any of the sectors will actually kick off in the short term. But we see the effort. What we don't see is the effort to stimulate some spending in the economy. And who spends, sir? Everybody. The working class, the middle class. That is who spends. But no effort. In a speech that was supposed to cover standard of living and cost of living and deal with inflation, no effort. Can't point to it. The little effort that was made, sir, was the reference to minimum wage. And to their credit, sir, again, to their credit, Senator, the government implemented minimum wage, and they beat their chest. Yeah. I do my own. But, sir, the test on an effective minimum wage, sir, the test of an efficient minimum wage is to verify that it really does increase wages. That's the test, sir. to verify that it really does increase wages. If it does not, then minimum wage is not an effective wage floor. Of course I am. Of course. Go and do some checks, man. You go and do some checks.
Check it.
So understand this, sir. That is the test. The test is, will it result in an increase in wages to those workers? Have they done the test? Have they done the test? They're quiet now, sir. Let me do the test. Because when an employer, when a worker, let me say this, when a worker has to stay at home and wait for the roster to come out, the scheduled hours to come out, to see what they will work in the week, they don't control their wages. Right? They don't control their wages, so it is commendable. It is commendable, sir. But when you leave the discretion, sir, come on, sir. Sir, when you leave the discretion solely to the employer, you have an issue. I am saying to you, sir, that to be effective, they also need a minimum hourly, weekly hours floor, so that persons will be guaranteed a certain amount of revenue. What the government has implemented is a minimum wage rate, not a minimum wage. So I am saying to you, sir, don't mind these asides. I am saying, sir, that the test, they fail the test. Has it redound to increase in wages when workers are complaining in all spheres that the employers have that flexibility? And it may not be an easy fix, but it has to be consideration. Because it has to be consideration, because even if you increase it by 75 cents, and then you are short 2 hours or 3 hours a week, you are back in square one. We are back in square one, but then the government gets to say the increased minimum wage. So I am saying to you, sir, consult. You have to consult. It may not be across the board. It may be sectoral. I don't know. By telling the government they have to do the right thing. Don't deceive the people and then leave it for other persons to determine their destiny. They have to feel the wage, and they have failed the test. So, sir, it's very interesting that you can tell that a lot of thought has not gone into, in my opinion, to this sort of conversation about consumer spending and people, and the role that people play in this economy. Because the statistics are in front of the government. And we talk about why persons might not want to go to work, why workers are disengaged, etc., sir. It's a function of that. A function of that flexibility. There's no guarantee. Even if they had a minimum guarantee, it's something they might work on. They might work with it. They'll get us, say, you know, at least I would get $400. At least I can get $350, whatever it turns out to be. And then they can budget from that. But not 1 week, they get $275. Next week, they get $140. Next week, you can't budget. You can't budget. But, sir, the continuous household labor force survey at December of 2023. See, they like to talk about unemployment rate. Unemployment rate is what, 8.3%, it's down 7%. We hear it. And that, again, that's fine. It's okay. That is the appropriate medium in which we measure these things, that's fine. But, sir, there are 9,000 persons that are not actively looking for work. 9,000. Why? Why? So all this talk about minimum wage and the minimum wage increasing, I think because it's really not increased, they're disengaged. If you give them a guarantee and they know that every year then they might get an incentive, I understand they will index the legislation to make sure that they have inflationary increases, which is fine again. At least they're motivated to say, I can come to work. We will start to bring people from not wanting to come to work into being productive. It would have a positive effect on the productivity of the country, the productivity of Bajans, their perspective. But you have to analyze it, sir. It is very important. So, sir, the benefits of putting money into the hands of consumers, sir, is significant. It doesn't only help the government to grow or to get to its destination, sir. It doesn't only help the businesses to earn an income. It doesn't only help the businesses to be able to employ persons and to expand their operations. It also helps those in the community, sir, because when persons have spending power and they go back to their communities, that haircut that they were getting once every 6 weeks become once every 2 or 3 weeks. When the frequency in which they get the nails and the hair done, the ladies, it increases. The amount of lining at the shop to get a beer or to get a flask of rum also increases, hopefully in moderation. But sir, this is reality. This is reality. A person can get up and they can have some discretionary income and they can pay their bills. So this is not a situation where, sir, that we leave out the people and we look at no investment and we feel that everything's going to be sweet. We have to carry the people along on this journey. And to carry the people along, we have to give them some wiggle room to take care of themselves and to help participate in the growth of this economy. Sir, I am a little concerned by some of the statements that are continually made. And sometimes you get a statement and then you get a contradictory statement from the government. Sir, Senator Morris is just talking. I need to hear myself at least. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister said that she doesn't lose sleep over our reserves. She loses sleep about skills deficit and whether we have enough people to do that job, the job that needs to be done in this country. We need that clarified. We need that clarified. What is she saying? We got 11,100 persons at home looking for work. We got 9,000 people at home that are disinterested at this point. But yet, we got a skills deficit. Anybody hear this will believe that we got full employment in this country? And that we don't have to import all the brains and everything to do work? Are we to assume that these persons are uneducated and of no use? I think we need a clarification. I will not drill on it, but I think it is a statement that needs some clarification, given our state of employment and the money that we are spending in education, and that we have spent in education. And the contradictory term then, sir, becomes Barbados has per capita the largest number of university graduates and trained young people in the region. We need to use their talents here at home, grow the economy, and offer young people new and varied job opportunities which utilize their training, creativity, talent, and skills. It sounds sweet, but it's contradictory. So I think we need to clarify. Junior expert. Sir, as you can tell, I am talking about employment, and I am talking about jobs and fair pay. I'm talking about consumer spending in this economy if we are going to grow. We did not meet our revenue targets last year. We fell short by $200 million. And if we don't meet the targets this year, then we're going to go to find the money from somewhere else. It has to be added to the other. So we can't have a one-sided plan of incentives and tax incentives and all these things. You can't have a one-sided plan. Can't leave out the people. Got to bring them along. Sir, the job opportunities need to be fair to our workers, and they need to be of life. Because I hear all this song and dance about 1,200 jobs for members of the city. And I'm happy that some 1,200 persons will get a chance to earn some revenue. What I am uncertain of again, sir, and Barbados is uncertain of, is that the Cricket World Cup is supposed to benefit the country as a whole. And how many jobs are left for others that seek employment? What are the terms and conditions for these jobs? How long will they last? Because it's a lost song and dance, and we got to stop playing with people. Will it last 2 months? Will it last just the month of June? What about other people in St. Joseph, St. George, St. Michael Northwest, St. James? What? So I think we need, all I'm saying, sir, the government needs to be fair, and they need to look at the interests of the people of this country so that we can participate in growth, and sustainable growth as that too. Sir, there is notion also that the country is buzzing and all that. I don't know if it really is, other than the fact that we have had some growth, obviously coming from 0 during COVID. We expect 11 periods of growth. If we didn't get 11 cycles of growth coming from 0, I believe that something will be wrong. But try to go to the supermarket after 8 o'clock at night. Try to get in the mall after 8 o'clock. Pre-COVID, these places were opening 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock. Some gas stations have not even resumed 24 hours. Some places don't even bother to open on Sundays anymore. Buzzing with activity. 6 years, name an expansion of a new business in this country. No, you ain't talking now. Buzzing with activity, sir. So all I'm saying, sir, is that we have to be careful. We have to be careful the words that we say to the people. Because it's not buzzing, they're living it. They're living it. And a government that wants to grow the economy should be seeking to put us back where we were. Not only coming in here and thumping his chest about a minimum wage rate. I thought about making sure that we are opening longer. We don't have any conversations anymore about a 24-hour economy. We don't have any conversations anymore about even making Sundays. You know, Sunday stores in town is open. We don't hear these conversations. So what was that saying about the plans? Everything we hear is about big grand ideas that most of the time, sir, most of the time means that somebody have to bring millions of dollars to invest in Barbados. And so far, sir, there's nothing to show that that has been successful. And I'm saying, while that is necessary, it is also necessary to take care of our own and to make sure that what is happening here is working for the benefit of the workers, the businesses, and the government. So, sir, we hear about the population, the demographic situation we have in the country, right? We hear about it. It is real. The statistics are there. I don't think we need to dwell on the statistics, but the facts are there. We have an aging population. The birth rate is not where we want it to be. I have tried my best, sir. I have 4 children. Please, I try my best, right? Right. So it's a real problem. Right. Oh, 5 minutes, sir. Oh, even with the interruptions?
There are no interruptions that are outside of the standing orders.
Okay.
Interruptions are permitted on points of order.
5 minutes. Okay, sir. So what if that is the case, sir, and if we want to grow, if we want to have a wider population, we have to talk about families. not babies, families. And I heard a senator and hear me explore about families first and all that. That was not funny. It wasn't funny at all. Because we have to make sure that people can afford to have families and that they're decent living, there's a decent education system, that the parents are earning, and there's a decent social structure in place. But again, you set targets, you want more people, you want them now. You can't get them now because they stay a couple months to do what they gotta do. Then they stay 9 months for bringing them in. Then they gotta grow to become workers, etc., to be participating in economic activity. So we got import workers. Okay? Remember, I said to take care of our workers first. We got 20,000 people that would like some work. What, 11,000, 9,000 we can re-engage. But what I'm saying, sir, what I'm saying is that where are the family-friendly policies that will help persons to at least think about bringing children into this world? The allowances. We ain't gonna tax allowances. Behave yourself. We ain't gonna tax allowances. We ain't got nothing to say that we can build a family. Once upon a time, you had a little tax allowance for a child. You had a tax allowance for the mortgage interest. I mean, you bring back these things, maybe you should make sure the ceiling is at least 4, right? But you bring back these things into the equation because you want people to participate in that as well. You can't participate on the sidelines. And it is said that the persons that can afford it are not doing it. But they can't afford it because you know what? They will like to drive up in the terrace, comfortable. They would like to live in a nice house with a nice car, and they should. Why not? They work for it. So, and that is high. So if they have a little tax break, if you get a little tax break, sir, on the mortgage interest, it might encourage somebody to go and build a home. If you got a little tax break here and there for things that develop this country, it will work. It will work. Bring the family-friendly policy, sir. Sir, in conclusion, I will implore the government. I think they have been very kind to me today, and I appreciate it, right? But I would implore the government, sir, to put a mechanism in place to reduce and slow the rate of increases in the country. They made a promise. They can keep that promise. They need to go back to the 2018 manifesto and see what that promise was. Keep that promise. Instead of increasing the light bills at April 1st to 10% VAT charge, please maintain the 7.5% VAT that households currently pay. That will not hurt the government, but it will mean a lot to the consumers of this country. Sir, give relief to the high gas prices that we are paying at the pump. 6 months we had not have a change, and the problem is that the price at the pump right now is very high. It is second highest, it's $4.24, one of the highest we've ever had, and it's been held for 6 months. We need answers for that, and if something was missed in error, give us the savings, please, pass it back down. Pass it, don't let it trickle down, let it run down, okay? Sir, I also will ask them to phase out some of the onerous taxes that Barbadians are burdened with. We heard about the 2% foreign exchange fee that the IMF said can be phased out. Phase it out. Even if they cannot reduce it the full 2% this year, do 0.5% reduction, do a 1%, but phase it out. Mr. President, put our workers first. Give them a guarantee of a minimum income, not a minimum wage rate. The truth is that, as I said, they need the test. The government has failed the test because it did not represent an increase in wages to the employer. Fix that. And lastly, sir, we need to create an environment family-focused that would also put some extra income back in the pocket so that we can spend and circulate into the economy. The family-friendly policies, the tax allowances, you cannot just give the businesses the tax allowances, give the people that are earning it is what, $3.2 billion in revenue that we have to the country has to make this year, that is the contribution that workers are making. And the sacrifice is more taxes. I spoke about the $800 million in tax that's been collected since 2018. It is a significant contribution, a sacrifice to Barbadians. And the government, if everything is going so well, if we are on the up and up, can definitely give these people a knees. Sir, I thank you.
Thank you very much, Senator Walters. Senator Dr. Hintz. So, Senator Reverend Morris.
Mr. President, colleagues of this Senate, good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Thank you, Senator. Sir, if I appear to be a bit overcome, at the point of tears, sir, it is maybe having to sit through the speech of the last speaker. The Honorable Senator, sorry. Sorry. Before I go into what I have to say, there is a narrative, sir, that I see playing out in here, that there are certain senators who are deliberately breaching the rules of this Senate, and when points, sir, in my view.
Senator Morris. Senator Morris, you reflected on the chair. I will never allow any senators to breach the rules of this Senate, whether deliberately or accidentally.
Correct. Thank you, sir. They are attempting to. Yes. That is true, sir. That's true. But to have to sit through, to listen to the speech of the last senator, honorable senator, was most galling. He says he wants to know, but I want to know too. All of the concerns he raised about the suffering, he's aware of the suffering. He talked about minimum wage and minimum wage rate and all of that. But what the senator did not tell this chamber, that when the minimum wage legislation was introduced, he slashed the working hours at Burger King from between 36 to 40 hours a week to between 22 to 26 hours a week, sir.
Reverend Morris, there's a point of order.
Sir, a point of order, sir.
Yes, what's the point of order?
The honourable member is misleading the House. And what is the relevance of his statement? Sir, first of all, he has no facts. That's not a factual statement. And it's also an incorrect statement. Thank you, sir. So I would like it to be withdrawn.
Sir, sorry.
Are you able to establish the factual basis of your statement, Reverend Morris?
Yes, sir. I can ask, sir, Miss.
But in any case, even if you are, though, was the matter of minimum wages was raised in the discussion. The matter of the specifics of a particular employer, corporate or individual, really begs the question of naming members, naming entities that are not here. I would urge you to tread cautiously in the direction in which you're going.
Sir, there were companies that reduced the working hours from 36 to 40 hours a week to between 22 to 26 hours a week. And these companies, sir, have not escaped the notice of Senator Walters. I hope that is parliamentary now, sir. He was making an admission. He was admitting it, sir.
Point of order,
He
sir.
was admitting it.
Sir,
Yes, Senator Walters.
Point of order, what admission? I made it clear, sir, that to benefit employees, they have to see an increase in their wages, that was a test. I'm saying to you that the flexibility of any company who has the ability to adjust hours of an employee
I didn't make that point.
does not give that person the absolute right to have an increase. If the honorable senator has to defend, or if he cannot acknowledge the truth of what I'm saying and what it would mean to a worker across Barbados, I feel for him, sir. I really do. I really do. I feel for him. And sir, as I said, if the honorable senator believes that this is where he has to travel, well, so be it. So be it, sir. But I'm very disappointed. Very sorry. I did not admit on anything that's happening, any interest that I have professionally outside of this chamber, sir.
Thank you for that clarification, Senator Walters. Senator Morris, please press on.
Mr. President, I never referred to anything he said in his speech. I never did. I was talking about businesses. I wasn't talking about him, but obviously, he seems to be guilty somewhere along the line, but he can be up and down like a yo-yo and here today.
Senator, you made a point. Move on.
Yes, sir. Sir, I hate grandstanding about caring for the small man, caring for the unfortunate worker, caring for this person and next person. And when it comes to using poor people to score a cheap political victory, I get very annoyed. So I grew up in Black Bess. And all of us there were extremely poor. And I lived through it. I felt it. And any person who talks about concern for the poor, and then their actions do not match their words, is like a person whose cerebral gland has been so hemorrhaged that oral rectiflexion teams with phonetics destabilization. The Bible refers to it as hypocrisy, sir. I do not serve up platitudes, I just tell it as it is. Well, you got big words, not me. Sir, all of this, it seems as though that the poor man and the poor black man has become a political football for a lot of people in this place. And I do not believe that that is what we should be doing. I think, sir, that when our hearts and mouths should be saying the same thing. But don't tell me that you are so concerned, Mr. Speaker, Mr. President, about the poor black man, and yet you cut the hours of work. That's one. Secondly, sir, I want to speak on some issues that went here before, I think from Tuesday, with Senator Watson. No, sir, I like Senator Watson. I know you like me. I know you like me. You like one other song? But I wish to refute several statements that she made. So when I speak here, I do so honestly and more so truthfully. I believe that what she said on Tuesday should be scrutinized with forensic exactitude and her misadvantage with the truth need tabulation.
On a point of order,
Yes, Senator Watson.
the senator is in breach of Standing Order 34, imputing dishonesty to me. I would wish him to withdraw that.
Senator, yes, Senator Morris.
Yes, sir.
Senator Reverend Morris. I think you will want to withdraw the statement and move on, please.
Sir, so what do you prefer me to say?
I would prefer you to
I
press
did
on
not
and
call
make your
her, sir, she
point.
said I call her, I never call her that.
Withdraw the statement and move on, please.
It bothers me, sir. It bothers me. Why she did not stick to facts. Why the honorable senator did not stick to facts on this momentous occasion. First of all, she said that the senator said that students were presently disadvantaged as a result of online teaching. I did not hear her present one source, one figure to substantiate her claim. Nothing of the sort. She said that stakeholders were not involved. Sir, the teachers' unions were engaged in this since the summer of 2022. The government did not present anything to the major stakeholders. In 2022, they called the unions together and engaged in brainstorming exercise to
On a
hear
point
their
of
thoughts
order.
on what form.
Mr. President.
Yes, what's the point of order?
Mr. President, the honorable senator, I don't know, do you call you honorable if you're not a minister? Notwithstanding, the senator is misleading. What nastiness? I'm asking for direction. From
Yes,
Mr. President.
all senators are honorable senators.
Thank you, Mr. President.
The senators or ministers separate from the senator, the honorable, but if they just stand alone, they're
Thank you,
honorable
Mr.
senators
President.
in the honorable the Senate.
You all are too sensitive. Mr. President, the senator is misleading the chamber. What I said is that the key stakeholders were not consulted prior to the policy, the reform plan being rolled out. Key stakeholders being parents and students. If he's going to correct me, he should have his facts about what I said, Mr. President. I would like him to not mislead the chamber. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Senator Watson. I listened very carefully to you both, and the matter turns on key. One person's key is not another person's key. There will be differences of opinion on who is key to what. That is not a matter that will turn so much on fact, but on opinion. And so, Senator Morris, if you want to express your view on who should be key to discussions, feel free to do so, but you're not in a position to, in relation to fact, you could disagree with the opinion of Senator Watson in relation to what is key, but the two keys were contained.
So my key is not going to contend with hers. The government, sir, did not present anything to the major stakeholders. In 2022, rather than presenting it, sir, the government called unions together and engaged in a brainstorming exercise to hear their thoughts on what form reform should take. Contrary to what was said, sir, the school children of Barbados were also consulted. Meetings were held with students from schools across the island, and the recommendations and comments of the children also informed the draft policy. It is still a draft policy because this government is not afraid to listen to people and amend plans and policy as necessary. Fourth point, sir. Quite contrary to to what her party represented, sir. When 20,000 people marched on these streets of Barbados because the government then would not talk to them, they refused to meet. Yes, I am. Then Senator Watson contradicted what her leader said. Senator Watson contradicted what her leader said concerning the role of education. Her political leader, sir. President Showbitch is her leader. He says that the present system has allowed persons to raise themselves from poverty. She is saying, the honorable member is saying that the system is responsible for the boys on the block. That, sir, is a thorny issue. She scorned the increase of minimum wage. At least, sir, they saw a minimum wage. With her party, all they saw was joblessness as thousands were sent home. And apart from minimum wage under the party she now represents, there was one minimal increase in terms in 10 years. Now, sir, the minimum wage, as I understand it, is going to be reviewed yearly. And do not forget, sir, that in the midst of COVID, the government kept people employed, gave them subsistence allowances, and basic food items. Many first world countries did not even do that. In fact, Mr. President, Barbados far outstripped the first world countries when it came to its management and dealing with COVID-19. I want to deal with another myth, sir. It was said that the Barbados Labour Party sold the land on the West Coast to foreigners. I question the source of that information. The land on the West Coast was first sold by the Right Excellent Errol Barrow back in the 1960s. He diversified or attempted to diversify the economy, quite rightly so in my mind. Very rightly so. But the country needed that foreign exchange. And that was the time when people like Oliver Messel, Lascelles, Claudette Colbert, Ronald Tree, the owners of Sandalay and a host of them. I have no problem with that, sir. Even today, sir, there's a road named after the same Mr. Lascelles. If you pass when you're going up to Seaview, as soon as you pass the buildings there, in the corner, and another thing, the private thing named Lascelles. I want, sir, to deal with my area, and that is teaching and education reform. And I wish to begin with a quote made by Senator Reverend Canon Dr. Rogers, when he said the illiterate of the 21st century will not be those who cannot read and write, but those who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn. But in another way, sir, we have to construct, deconstruct, and reconstruct. And I'm sure that you would have heard those words recently coming from the Honorable Prime Minister. And I'm also making the point that we need education reform because at every juncture in history, when there was a development in technology, you had the concomitant transformation in education. Let's examine some of this. Let's go back into history. I put on my teaching hat now for those who will hear. or who can hear, not only here, so outside the country. Mr. President, the way we record and transmit information has fundamentally changed the human environment. Social justice is about alleviating poverty. And that gives us self-respect and independence. And through the centuries, this has been done through education. Yes, sir, whenever there was technological advancement, there was transformation in education. And if I may remind you, sir, the first revolution, because there were 3 information revolutions. And the first was the development of writing. At first it came through art, and then it developed over the years. And with population settled, writing, they were able to write, they were able to record transactions. And the birth of writing was the genesis of knowledge. Knowledge could now be accumulated and handed down to future generations. Writers, or writing, was the breakthrough by which those that were present, could pass on lessons to past generations and to future. If I may quote Jonathan Sachs, sir, clearly, writing was a huge move in the direction of abstraction. Speech is natural in the sense that every human has it. Writing is artificial. It needs rules and conventions, and these must be consciously learned. But it also facilitates abstract thought, and it tends to fix the past in ways over cultures. End of quote. Characters were formed. The time it took to master them, to learn to read and write, developed because of writing. Well, yes, because of writing. And there's a view by Francis Bacon that knowledge is power. And all we are trying to do, because even now, with this information technology, the way it has been revolutionized, even now, we are trying to empower our children, our people, by giving them knowledge. The problem with that, sir, initially, is that this knowledge was only used in hierarchical societies, where they were stratified, where knowledge was not widely diffused, and most people had no access to education and information. The second revolution in information came with the development of the alphabet. And this in itself created deep political change. For the first time, the entire universe of communicable knowledge was reduced to a simple set of symbols between 20 and 30 letters. The alphabet itself, sir, created knowledge at the individual level. Each individual had knowledge, and thus power, and hence dignity. In earlier societies, sir, only the priests were educated. And that is where we get the phrase, the kingdom of priests, and the priesthood of all believers. It didn't mean that all people were to be priests. It didn't mean that, because there were a lot of people in heaven. The word hieroglyphics means priestly script. And even now, the word clerical has a double meaning relating to clergy or scribe. So these were the only people that were educated. And with the development of later information, all people then had to be developed. The third revolution, sir, came with the creation of the printing press. And this started when Martin Luther penned his 95 Theses on the church door of All Saints Church in Wittenberg. And this itself started a chain of events. But would you believe, sir, that even before Martin Luther, there was a Bible written by John Wycliffe, but it was never, ever published. Why? Because there was no printing. And all that happened was that during with the printing, knowledge began to break out some more. And that printing was developed by Johannes Gutenberg in Germany in 1450. Books had been written before, but it was beyond the reach of ordinary people. But when the printing press developed, more than 1 million titles were printed between the Reformation and 1640. In fact, one utopian pamphlet, the Macaria, published in 1641, predicted the art of printing will so spread knowledge that the common people, knowing their rights and liberties, will not be governed by way of oppression. And that pace developed. Latin was no longer seen as the language. As a matter of fact, that was the language of scholars. All that diminished, and people had an education. Benedict Anderson, sir, said that the invention of printing led to 3 fundamental shifts. One, it broke the medieval idea of sacred script. That is, that there's one language that uniquely describes the true nature of reality. That was broken. The diffusion of reading led to the collapse of strictly hierarchical societies. And then it led to the awareness of new time. Everybody now could no longer be dominated by the time of the Middle Ages. These, sir, were the 3 revolutions in information. But there's a 4th, and we are living in that 4th. This, and the way this information age is going, we do not know what effect it will have on the societies. We don't know. And church changes are occurring at a tremendous pace. It means, therefore, sir, that we too have to reform. And the best way to deal with this is to ensure that every child has maximal opportunity for learning. Education, in my view, is still unevenly distributed throughout the world. Not more so in Barbados anymore. You see, because education is not just the ability to read and write, but to master and apply information and have access to knowledge. This is essential to human dignity, because knowledge is power. Equal access to knowledge is a precondition for access to power. To an increasing degree, sir, what we're having now, and I must say, in ancient times, wealth and power lay in the ownership of persons, usually slaves. In feudal times, societies took the form of ownership of land. In the industrial age, they went with ownership of capital and the means of protection. In this information age, they lie in access to and development of intellectual capital, the ability to master information and turn it into innovative ends, what Joseph Nye calls soft power. And to understand how important transformation is, sir, to an increasing degree, multinational corporations are outsourcing production and peripheral services and becoming instead owners of concepts. They're now owning brands and logos and images and designs. And therefore, in such an economy, immense advantages accrue to those with intellectual and creative skills. Education, not merely basic but extended, becomes a necessity even in having fundamental human rights. And therefore, investment in education is the most important way in which societies and what society has to offer its children. And therefore, sir, technologies are changing so rapidly that the idea that education is confined to a childhood would have to be revised in favor of lifelong learning. And this makes the democratization of education necessary. The more education children have, the wider their employment prospects. The more they're able to learn, the more they're able to earn. And the more effectively they're able to cope with rapid changing economic circumstances. These come as a result of this information technology. So we need to change. And why is there this need for change? There is resistance to change, sir, because there are some persons who have no understanding of the realities of education in these times and the links to the challenges we are facing in the white society. As a member of the Barbados Secondary Teachers Union, as you know, sir, that is only second to the Barbados Workers Union, we made some links ago, and we have given our full support to the concept of education transformation. Because we recognize the deficits, and we recognize that these deficits must be addressed. We have seen the links between instability in society and the deficits in education. There are a lot of young people who are leaving school who are not qualified for jobs. They do not want to do the jobs they are qualified for in terms of academic jobs. And they feel a sense of entitlement to certain jobs. We also have to link what is happening here to exposure to what we deem as first world countries, first world societies and economies, and the expectations of Barbadians. Barbadian society is very sophisticated in relation to what people want and the aspirations of Barbadians. Young people cannot achieve what they aspire to in an education system that is failing them. Our education system is based mainly on an academic route to success. The education system as it stands does not focus on or recognize the different intelligences, the different skills, and the different capacities that people have. And it's only in recent times that there have been some minor changes to curricular reform in schools, where they have recognized that the majority of persons before the courts come mainly from 7 schools. And at these schools, they tried to modify the curriculum, but that was not enough. 7 secondary schools, Mr. President. There is a recognition that the modification has to occur at a much wider level. It has to be widespread. It has to be there to meet the children where they are and preparing a path for them. A path that will equip them for success in terms of being able to have a certain quality of life. Equip them for their workplace. Equip them for whatever constitutes their work in terms of personal skill set. We have to train them now to understand that the 21st century, they will have to learn and relearn. Learn an attitude for lifelong education. Our educational system, it has its foundational level, or at its foundational level, at nursery, at primary levels, must be able to focus on soft skills. Curriculum change must include, especially in a situation where the family is failing its socialization role. The primary basic education program must include things like moral education, respect for authority, respect for the environment, respect for one another, respect for oneself. The heavy focus on academics from preschool has to give way to learning and understanding and practicing those things, because those are attitudes and behaviors that will work towards a disciplined, synthesized end product by the time they finish formal education and be a productive citizen. And that is what we are looking for and focusing on producing, a synthesized and positive end product that is a productive citizen. It means, therefore, that things like 11 plus has to be reformed or even removed. The 11 plus exams have fulfilled its function at a time when education was not universal. But right now, there is a place for every student at secondary level. And so a transition from primary to secondary school has to be realistically taken into account where the student is, and the curriculum, the program at the secondary level must cater to where the student is. It cannot be a uniform, one-size-fits-all that we presently have. That is resulting in the majority of students leaving school without fewer than 3 CXCs. And therefore, not being able to fit the types of jobs that they envision they should have, that they want, with the attendant frustration and anger and resentment and the resulting implications. All of this now becomes linked to mental health because it affects their self-confidence, it affects their self-esteem. An important part of what we have to do now in education is to teach life skills, teach entrepreneurship, teach fiscal management, so that they recognize that they do not have to depend on anyone to provide a job for them, but they must have the basics. I believe the time has come to abolish the 11 plus exam.
I want the race on the waters.
Mr. President, Standing Order 31 states, Senator should not read a speech, but he may read extracts from books. I think the Senator is reading his speech.
I have not discerned that. He's consulting extensively with his notes.
All right, sir.
Yes, I'm not in a position to see his notes, but he's flowing so smoothly, I would be surprised to think that he's reading, but he is consulting his notes extensively. Yes.
Sir, the common entrance exam has been a disadvantage to many of Barbadians. When it was introduced, sir, it was introduced and it brought the same problem that it tried to solve. And let me say this, that the persons who introduced the common entrance exam, I think the gentleman that was responsible for it was British racists. And it established the same kind of thing that was before. And we talk so much about free secondary education, sir. But the point about free secondary education, that when education was free, the majority of poor children in Barbados went to private schools and they had to pay. I was one of them, sir. And the more it was free, the more private schools opened. And a lot of these private schools, sir, were owned by cabinet ministers of the then government or friends of the prime minister of the said government. Think about modern, think about federal, think about co-op, think about Washington, think about community, think about industry, think about a whole gamut of private schools developed with free secondary education. Okay? The private schools, sir, were for poor people, they were for the poor children. A lot of them came from St. Peter. The private schools that we have today, sir, are people who are people who can afford it. Without people, Mr. President, I would like to continue because I know how it is when she gets on. The lessons, sir. What is happening now, sir? A number of students are going to lessons and it's affecting their mental health. School starts at, say, 8:45, and it goes until 2:45. At least I'm speaking to the school to which I attended. It speaks out. Pardon? I ain't get there yet. But let me say this. It finishes at 2:45. And by 3 o'clock, they are in class for a whole week, even Saturdays and Sundays. No time to play. And therefore, sir, what is happening is that we have some teachers in our system, and I must say this because I made this point at the union already, that we have some teachers at the system who are senior teachers who are coming to school at the start of teaching, and as school finishes, they're gone, they're up and gone because their lessons are more important. So that's it. So many of our students are encouraged into doing lessons because it gives them a head start over other people. And when we go to lessons, say you go down the road now, common interest is coming up. And I go down the road and Senator Watson and I meet. Our children have just taken the common interest exam. She says, oh, congratulations, Senator Morris. And I say, congratulations, Senator Watson. Why? Because our children passed the exam. So it's something that has nothing to do with the children. But it's in terms of meeting the children where they are. Sir, I believe that this year, there's the common interest. And I have it on good authority that the date will be put back. And I agree it should be put back. In terms of meeting children where they are at, there are certain things that we have to provide. So when I look at what is going on and what happened before, I'm not going to talk about zone and all that, but I want to say this, that there are certain things that must be put back into the schools, which the Democratic Labour Party says stop. Yes, sir, they stop these things. Let me tell you what they are. They stop things like testing, diagnostic testing. They stop things like testing for teaching and hearing and speaking. They stop that. Yeah, they stopped it. And our students, sir, must be able to learn, we must be able to know if they can see, if they can hear, if they can speak, if they can understand. That, sir, is a problem. And it's time that we bring them back. Sir, but there's something else that I talk with the children, there's something that we need to look at too. There are certain sixth form schools, sir. When these sixth forms were recently introduced, they were introduced, I was going on to that, but sir, she loves me so much that she's looking at me now. Sir, when sixth forms were introduced, they were introduced at the time where they were just rushed into. There were schools like St. Michael, sir, Alexander, that did not have, that were not provisioned for. They were not provisioned for. I'm talking about the structure, sir, infrastructure. They were not provisioned for. They did not have the facilities, and so if we begin to shout, it is because I'm hearing. Because you always shout.
Honorable Senators, please let us hear Senator Morris. I'm having trouble hearing him.
Sir, the sixth form schools were thrust upon us, upon some schools, and they were not prepared for them. You understand? Then, some of the teachers in the schools too, and that is why I'm saying that we may need the academies, but some teachers in the school are burnout. They are teaching more than one subject at different levels. I taught, sir, at sixth form level, and I taught history, sociology, and Caribbean studies at sixth forms. And I believe, sir, that teachers should not be burned out in that type of way. And some of them teach different subjects from first to sixth form in any one day. Okay? And that is why I would support the things like junior and senior academies. The Caribbean Examination Council, too, must pull up its socks. And education transformation must take into consideration other examination bodies as well. Sir, in terms of discipline in schools, if children are more profitably engaged, if they're doing what they want to do and what they enjoy doing, rather than being forced into a system that they know they will not gain much success, especially already when they feel that they're failures, that is going to lead to problems. There is already a link between indiscipline and education. I want to press on, sir, to the other thing that is broken in our schools. And that is the Minister of Education then, along with the Chief Education Officer, suddenly changed the qualifications for principals and deputy principals. And everybody had to have a master's to be a principal or deputy principal. And there were some good leaders in our schools, good teachers in our schools, who were effective, who could not, sir, get these principals and deputy principals. And what you have is a number of young people without the experience, without the expertise, going and getting their masters. And the masters, sir, could be in anything. It could be in raising puppies. It could be making lamps. All you have to do is to have a master's and you qualify immediately for a principal or deputy principal. That is damaging our schools. So we have been denied the experiential teachers in our schools. I remember, sir, in 1976-77, when the Ministry of Education, under the leadership, when the Right Honorable GM Tom Adams, when they were changing the qualifications, wanted to change the qualifications for those in teaching, those who had less than 4 O-levels. Those teachers were allowed to continue to work while they gain their qualifications. Now, sir, what happened is that they tried to, by telling these teachers that they have to get qualifications, when they stop paying for education, when the government stopped paying for education, these teachers had to make a decision as to whether they were going to send their children to university or go on to do their masters. So this is a lamentable situation, because I believe that the time for change has come. Because I have realized, sir, that lies and propaganda have gained prominence. This is Holy Week, and I'm still governed by Christian principles. Others may say not, but it's, but others may say that they are, and they're not manifested either. You know, sir, Jesus was ministering in Galilee. If I sound like a preacher now, I intended to preach. Jesus was ministering in Galilee. And the Pharisees came to Jesus and said to him, "Leave. Herod is about to get you. Herod is about to get you." And Jesus said, "Go tell that fox. Go tell that fox. I'm casting out demons and performing cures today and tomorrow and the third day, so on and so on. Jesus referred to Herod as a fox. In that world, sir, a fox was regarded as a sly, conniving destroyer. Foxes steal with stealth, but they never want to be caught. Fox is a metaphor, sir, for someone or something that has an appearance that does not match the deceit in his or her heart. A fox looks cute and cuddly, and that is how they looked to me when I was in England. So when we talk about fox, deep in a fox's heart is deception. So when Jesus called Herod a fox, he was saying that he knew how Herod wanted to look, like a good ruler, like a good leader, but he knew that he knew in his heart that that is not what it was. Herod's outward appearance did not match what was in his heart. Jesus was telling Herod that he was pretending to be something that he was not. Sir, Jesus' world has come to ours. Because when the leader is known to be deceptive, conniving, and lying, that when you sit in your seat of authority and you lie and you're conniving, we cannot trust anything that is coming out of your mouth. There is a problem with leaders who like to oppose just to oppose. We cannot trust Herod because what comes out of Herod's mouth previously, recently, cannot be trusted. And what comes out of Herod's mouth, sir, has a worse effect than placing the thorns on the head of Jesus. We must be so committed to speaking the truth that we are not anesthetized by propaganda. It is immoral to create an enemy in order to justify an immoral act. Oh, it is like a rose, sir. It's like a thorn hiding under a rose and
I want to rise, Senator.
I rise on a point of order,
Yes.
Mr. President. Again, a breach of Standing Order number 34. People are going to say he did not identify anyone by imputation. It's a rule that applies in defamation, innuendo, juxtaposition, the use of the word thorn, and he cannot do that in relation to members of either house of this parliament.
So I never refer to anybody?
Mr. President, I would appreciate if he's, also, while I'm standing on this point of order, what is the relevance of this to the appropriation bill? The estimates that I was advised I need to focus my attention on in my presentation here.
I picked up no imputations on anyone in or out of the House. The senator is a reverend and he waxed into biblical text which ran true to form. So I picked up no innuendo there. In relation to relevance, it has been my consistent position in relation to the appropriations bill. The appropriations bill is in relation to all of government spending. The estimates is a schedule to the bill. And therefore, in relation to government's programs, in my judgment, all government programs are fair game for debate in an appropriations bill. It is the one debate in which there's latitude. And that is consistent with the standing order that says contributions must be relevant to the matter under discussion. If, however, we're dealing with an environmental bill, it'd be difficult to talk about a matter not related to that. But the appropriations bill is at one time, which is where you have an hour, broad policy, some folks get down into the weeds and economics. So education reform, matters of leadership, policy direction, they're all fair game in my judgment in relation to the appropriations bill. And additionally, and that was under the old format. Under the new format, just to be clear, the budget this year was delivered within the second reading of the appropriations bill, and that therefore is also fair game in my judgment. So my position on the appropriations bill is that any matter that falls under any of the heads, policies, or programs in the ministries and operations of government is fair game for discussion. And Senator Reverend Morris, Senator Reverend Morris's comments and content is therefore relevant.
Mr. President, I'm sure that you heard questions of truth and all kind of things speaking here. Anyhow, sir, let me continue.
Let me, however, though, notwithstanding the wonderful lessons from Holy Week, you have 5 minutes more. I would therefore advise that you may want to come to the end of that week very quickly and make your concluding points.
Yes, sir. I want to say, sir, that yes, this is Holy Week, but I also believe in the teleological argument, sir, that there is a guiding hand behind things that happen. And I believe, sir, that there's a guiding hand of some supreme being.
Senator Morris, notwithstanding my liberal interpretation of government policy and the scope of government's operation, it would still be useful. Yes, the elements of leadership and policy and moral underpinning and so on. There's even a ministry responsible for ecclesiastical matters and so on. Head 84 in the estimates. However, you may want to not use too large a proportion of your 1 hour on such matters.
Sir, all I'm saying, sir, all I'm saying is that I believe that there's a guiding hand behind everything that's happening. And that is why this government is in power today. Okay? That's all I'm saying. And I believe in that philosophy simply because history is not random. It was that teleological philosophy that undergirded the philosophies of Plato and Aristotle, Immanuel Kant, George Hegel. It inspired the liberationist theologian like Oscar Moreira, and it even inspired people like Martin Luther King. And I read, sir, how he traveled from Selma to, I can't remember the state, on the capital state. And he asked the question, how long will it take for these things to happen? And he answered the question himself, how long? Not long. In 2018 and 17 and 18, that same question was asked of Mayor Motley. How long will it take to stop the downgrades? Not long. How long will it take to bring about economic stability? How long? Not long. How long will it take to bring about social cohesion? How long? Not long. How long will it take to bring back pride to Barbados? How long? Not long. How long will it take, sir, to bring our children back to school? How long? And stop the payment for university fees. How long? Not long. How long will we end how long will it take to end political uncertainty? How long? Not long. Sir, how long before I wrap up? Not long. But I want, sir, to commend all of what has been happening, this legislation, this bill, to the approval of this Senate. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much, Reverend Senator Reverend Morris. Senator Mr. Maynard.
Thank you, Mr. President. In case my words are jumbled, sir, I am somewhat still on the influence of anesthetic. Mr. President, I had decided that I was going to speak about healthcare first, but I'm forced to speak about agriculture, sir. Sir, I can't say I listened. I overheard it said, sir, on the floor of the other place, that there was going to be the restarting of a GILT program. Now, I don't know how many people in here understand what a GILT is, sir, but I'm sure that you do. Because like me, you had the privilege of growing up in the village. And I understand, sir, that I know that the best thing to get the smell of pigs off of you is blue soap and a sea bath. Mr. President, I was a little bit confused as to whether the conversation that was being had was G-U-I-L-T or G-I-L-T. But I'll explain what G-I-L-T is. G-I-L-T is a female pig that has not yet been bred. Once that pig is bred, and pig usually is about 170 to 220 days old, almost 9 months. When that pig has been bred and has born offspring, it becomes a sow. But a GILT is also security issued by the Bank of England. And it tells one that pigs are seen as some form of wealth. In this country, sir, as a boy growing up, you will remember that the smell of pigs was everywhere, early in the mornings, except on Sundays. We no longer smell pigs. We ask, why have the pigs got flushable toilets that we don't smell them? I can guarantee you, sir, they don't. Sir, it is because that the small person who had 5 or 3 pigs, or 2 pigs or 1 pig, no longer has them. And I will explain why. During the pandemic, sir, when we had the lockdown and all the consequences of it, there was a large influx of pork carcasses into the country, legally brought into the country. But legally brought in, sir, because licenses were issued. It was a legal purchase and importation, sir, but without thought. I say without thought, sir, because there was no consideration given as to what it would do in the long term. Portions of the carcasses, sir, were used for manufacturing, hams and such like. But the remainder, sir, were sold on the local market at prices way below the normal price of pork. And it had the impact, sir, of stifling the sale of pork. And we knew, sir, with the lockdowns, you couldn't have put in those places open. So pigs that were ready for market had to be disposed of. Sir, somebody has to be responsible. But nobody wants to talk about it. But we want to restart a GILT program for breeding pigs when we've eaten the pigs. We've eaten the very pigs that we want to breed. So we have destroyed 100 years of genetics by signing a paper. 100 years. Because a Bayesian pig is not an American pig, nor is it an English pig. It's a hybrid. It's heat resistant and all the other attributes that you want. So by making a decision without consideration and consultation, we have destroyed something that we have to take 40, 50 years to rebuild. But it continues. It continues, sir, because pork is being imported into this country as carcasses and is being sold in the marketplace. You can tell if you eat it what it is. That it is not a Bayesian pig. It's totally different. But sir, I say this because we cannot speak about agriculture and about providing loans in agriculture and do not support the pig industry. We hear about loans and options for getting loans aimed at their industry forever. But the pig farmers seem to be forgotten. But sir, the pig farmers don't necessarily mean people who have 200 or 300 pigs. A pig farmer could be someone, sir, it's like a meat intern with 5 pigs. And those pigs, sir, sustain a family. There's a crisis, and somebody goes and sells 3 pigs and provides some cash. I'm not suggesting that we should have pigs, sir, everywhere, but we shouldn't do things, sir, that destroy agriculture, especially if you're responsible for it. So you have to fix it. Now, Mr. President, some time ago, we saw the plight of a farmer, and it was on television when his access to water was denied. And the problems of water, sir, are real. It's an expensive commodity, and I think that I've heard it said that we don't pay in Barbados the real price of water. That our price in Barbados per cubic meter is lower than most countries in the Caribbean and possibly the world. I don't know. I've not seen the actual numbers, sir. But be that as it may, sir, what we have not done, sir, to reduce the price of water is to have a program of education for the public. Mr. President, and I've said this in this chamber before, there's a requirement to put in a cistern to catch rainwater in a house, I believe, once the square footage is over 1350 square feet. But no government so far, including this one, sir, has gone out there and educated the public on the use of this water that will breed mosquitoes and cause dengue. How do we use it sensibly? Have we encouraged anyone or people to have kitchen gardens? Are there incentives that you can get a pump duty-free that can pump your water? Since some people seem to lack ideas, Mr. President, I wish to give a few. Encourage the public to have kitchen gardens. It will do a lot for NCDs. Fork up some of your nice lawn and plant some beds of vegetables and give the public an incentive to have a pump, maybe a solar pump. Pardon me? Now, Mr. President, the problems of water in this country, sir, are not going to go away. Climate change and global warming is real, and as time passes, sir, and with all the development that is planned and approved, we will need more and more water. And sir, it may be a blessing that all of the housing plans have not come to fruition yet, because the demand will even be higher. But sir, I've heard, sir, in the budget that there are plans for some further desalination plans. And it appears to be necessary at this point in time. But sir, the cost that we pay for water at your tap, I mean, sir, I mean pure water. I do not mean lager, sir. Water at the tap, sir. The price that you pay starts with what negotiations have taken place for your desal plans. So if your contract allows, sir, a provider to claim back, offset against their taxes, all of the corporation tax paid the year before, you start with a loss. And it's important, sir, that when we negotiate the contracts for the desal plants, that we genuinely get the best deals. But I've also thought, Mr. President, since water is a precious resource that we all need, whether the public, sir, through some special entity, sir, could possibly own shares in the desal plants. The opportunities to invest in solar, and they ask, well, why is it that we cannot have the public invested in water? Sir, it is one of the things that will make me very happy, sir, and make a lot of people happy. But sir, we're constantly fixing problems with water and access to water. And we keep hearing about the brown water in the north, sir. And I've not heard anyone in public, sir, get up and give a plausible explanation as to why it's happened so suddenly. And what does the brown water mean? Is it brown salty water? Is it brown fresh water? Is it rust only from the pipes? Is it rust forming because there's salt in the water? And what has caused it? We speak of the problem, but we've not offered any public explanation of what has caused it. There are suggestions, Mr. President. There are suggestions in some quarters that the aquifer has been opened. And while I have no proof that it is so, sir, there is one way to disprove it. The way to disprove it, sir, is for the appropriate ministry to put people in the water in the right place, get samples, and test it. So we can know if the water is genuinely flowing out of the aquifer so fast that it cannot be replaced. And that is the reason why the wells in the north, the water level has fallen and there's salt water ingress. You can't reverse salt water ingress, sir. It's a permanent change. Now, Mr. President, I am not going to dwell on water very long, but I want to say something about transportation, sir. And I'm going to speak on it from a medical point. There is a tendency now, Mr. President, that persons from all walks of life drive around cars with small, vulnerable children in them, standing up unrestrained in the cars. And we are seeing increasingly in the QEH, young, innocent children coming in with injuries that will leave them scarred for life. And I think, sir, it's about time. Sir, and I'm not calling on anyone to take action against anyone in particular, but I think it's about time, sir, that those in charge of enforcing the seatbelt regulations start to enforce them again in all the areas where it's required. Now, Mr. President, I want to touch briefly on healthcare. My minister, sir, is present. So, sir, I'm not biblically oriented. And I visited our A&E on Saturday night, and I immediately remembered these two words: Jesus wept. And my interpretation of that, sir, is that it's supposed to remind us of humility and humanity and dignity for our brethren. And sir, what is happening in our country with healthcare, sir, is a tragedy. And we are all responsible. You, I, everyone is responsible, sir. The government alone cannot fix it. The QEH board cannot fix it. The staff of the QEH, doctors, nurses, orderlies, cannot fix it. The country, sir, the people, we have to fix it. We have to demand that those who, sir, are supposed to work, come to work and produce. Those who pay large sums of money to come to work have to come to work. Those, sir, who get paid lesser sums also have to come to work. And we have to make some hard, harsh decisions, sir, about how we will sanction those who don't come to work and who don't produce. Because if you're getting paid, you're supposed to work and you're supposed to produce. Now, the people of this country, sir, pay a 3% health levy. $70+ million a year collected. There's a nice insurance policy to the QEH. Big insurance, big group insurance. And I think that we can do far better than we're doing. But somebody has to truly take responsibility at an executive level and make sure it's done. I understand, sir, that we will soon have someone new in place who is capable of such things. I wait to see, sir, the outcome. Now, sir, the COVID-19 pandemic has had a major impact on work all over the world and all areas. And it's no different in healthcare. There are some people who believe that they can be a full-time healthcare worker from home. But the reality is that you can't. People need the in-person interaction, sir. And the COVID-19 pandemic has changed us all. And this thing called compassion has disappeared. But sir, when we had the COVID-19 pandemic and the government took the correct position to curtail certain services in the QEH and continue to pay all the staff without any, as far as I'm concerned, they continue to pay all the staff, sir, their salaries. It created a problem. It meant that those who continued to work had more time to themselves. And they were not at the beach because we couldn't go to the beach, but they were busy seeing patients. Well, the pandemic is declared over, and you now have to ask those persons who had reassigned their time to realize that they do have another job and come back to work and to produce. And you have to find methods to create the enthusiasm that is needed to genuinely work in a system that has changed, has gotten worse, and is more difficult to work in. But sir, there's some obligations that the government, sir, the government needs to meet. My visit to the A&E, sir, was after 8 p.m. And I think that, like some of my staff, sir, you could hear our stomachs down the corridor. We were so hungry. But there was no place in the hospital that could buy food at 8 p.m. The cafeteria closes at 3. We cannot have a 24-hour hospital. And you can't get food at night. How do you, staff, sir, who come on, nurses work 12-hour shifts. A nurse comes on, she works 12 hours. When her shift changes, she goes home and tries to get some sleep. By the time she gets back to work, she either has to buy food someplace or eat, as Beijing says, some stale food if she has some. So I'm pleading, sir, that we can get in the hospital food 24 hours a day from some guaranteed source. It cannot be that you will expect the place with the largest number of government workers under any one roof not to have access to food. Sir, and when it happens that there is a disaster and you have, sir, to stay in the hospital, the problem still exists. So you expect to provide care while you starve. No, sir, I don't have any say in who gets the contract to run the hospital's cafeteria, but I believe there has to be standards, sir, that are set. That says, these are the hours that you must be open, and there has to be, even at 2 in the morning, there has to be a minimum level of access provided for people to get food to eat, because the hospital is supposed to be a 24-hour hospital. I accept that not all the services in the hospital are available 24 hours a day, but it cares for people 24 hours a day. So I call upon the government and I call upon the minister, sir, to fix that problem. No, sir, the outpatient clinics in the QH have always been crowded. Sir, I came back from Jamaica in 1984, sir, 40 years ago. And I had become accustomed to a certain level of functioning in Jamaica that was unlike Barbados. That's how I would put it. So when I came back home to Barbados for that 6-week period, I was surprised to walk into the clinics and find that you would have 2 doctors seeing patients in the same room, and each patient could hear the conversations of the other patients. I mean that nothing that you said was private. But sir, 40 years on, and I'm now about to exit, and the same thing is happening. 40 years on. It means that successive governments, D, B, everything, over and over again, have done nothing to fix it. Senator Walcott has said that there will be new construction across in Enmore with outpatient clinics, and I hope, sir, that it will truly be delivered. And it will change, sir, how we do things in the QEH. But sir, the short-term solution in every other place is available. Sir, when we worked in the UK, there was a 20-by-8 unit called Portakabin. And whenever there were repairs to be done, or a new service was going to be added to the hospital because we were reorganizing the health directorate, you come on Monday, you'll see these Portakabins stacked together. And you'll be told, that is the new specialist clinic. And I asked myself, well, what's so hard in the QEH about doing that? Why must we continue to have people crowded together? Sir, over 20 years ago, I think it was a company called Frumentus e Cubertas that did the sewage project. Senator Thompson would be familiar with that. They brought in large numbers of Portakabins, and they had the offices in these cabins. Some of these cabins, sir, are very much alive today. I know of some that are actually converted to a house. Structurally, very, very, very strong, cold-rolled steel frame house. So I asked, why can we not do it? Why do we have to wait for Senator Walcott's significant change that will probably happen in 3 to 5 years? Why can't we do it tomorrow? Why can't we start thinking about doing it so that people can be seen and have privacy? At least something will change, sir, truly before the 40 years is up. Now, Mr. President, there continues to be an exodus of nurses and doctors. The morale, sir, is at its lowest. If we are to stop it, sir, and people have to be able to seek greener pastures, if we are to slow the exodus, we have to create conditions where young professional people who have opportunities at other places, or what they consider better opportunities at other places, that they may want to stay. And we might need to rethink the way we hire people. We might need, when I last spoke, sir, in this chamber, sir, mentioned the fact that there was a problem with the way contracts are done in the QEH for junior doctors in terms of short-term contracts, 3-month contracts. And one junior doctor said to me, can you imagine if I went to buy a car and I say, here's my contract, and it ended in 2 months, I will get laughed at. There has to be some consideration, sir, for changing the way that the human resource aspect of it is administered, so that it makes it more comfortable, sir, for people to live, sir, and to deliver care. If you go to work unhappy and sometimes angry, because when you get hungry at night and you can't get food to eat, you'll probably get angry. You cannot function. And I believe, sir, that some of the bad treatment that is meted out to people, and I'm not condoning it. I'm not at all condoning it. In fact, I condemn it. All of that bad treatment, some of it, sir, is because of the conditions of the workplace. But Barbadians pay a large $75 million health care policy every year. And if we paid $75 million, sir, to a private company for health care, we would expect it to be delivered. So I call upon the government, sir, to do whatever it can, get all the help it can, form all the committees, including a functioning philanthropic committee that really, really, really lets people know what is happening. Do all they can, sir, to improve the lot of our people, sir. Sir, under normal circumstances, I would have encouraged you, sir, to come down to the A&E to see what it's like, but I wouldn't do that, sir, because I would not want someone to see what happens when it gets bad. I am told that very soon we will have more space. We will have more space. I'm repeating myself, sir, because I know that some people have not heard. So I'm repeating myself, so I want to make sure that they hear. We need more space, sir. But we have to fix the problems that have caused it to be like that. And unless we fix the problems, sir, and it's 4 years ago I said this, unless we fix the problems, we will have a bigger, cooler, more comfortable place for people to wait in and get worse off. Sir, I thank you.
Thank you very much, Senator Mr. Miller. Are there any more speakers? Senator Cummings.
Mr. President, I'd like to move a suspension in the sitting of the Senate for the next 10 minutes, please.
The question is that this will be suspended until 1:05 p.m. today. Will all honorable senators in favor please say aye? Aye. Those against please say no. Methinks the ayes have it. This sitting is suspended until 1:05 p.m. today.